They were already dead. Pinned in a stone ravine, SEAL Team Orion had minutes left, maybe less. 3 sides lit up with gunfire. No backup, no extraction, no hope. Then a single shot tore through the dawn. One hostile dropped. Then another, precise, impossible, from nowhere. Miles away, a forgotten weapons tech, small, silent, always invisible, stood listening to their final screams on a channel no one else monitored. Elena Varel wasn't supposed to be there. She wasn't supposed to act. She definitely wasn't supposed to be holding that rifle. But she made a choice that morning that would shatter everything they thought they knew about survival, sacrifice, and the ghosts who walk among them. Before we begin, if you're watching this, stay until the very end. Drop a like and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Now, let's go back to where it all started. The gunfire came in waves, sharp, relentless, echoing off stone walls like the canyon itself was screaming. Sergeant Jacob Kane pressed his back against the rock face, chest heaving, ears ringing from the last burst that had chewed up the dirt 3 feet from his head. His rifle felt heavy, too heavy. He'd burned through 2 mags already, and they weren't even halfway out. "Contact left! Contact left!" Corporal Rains was shouting into the comms, his voice cracking at the edges. The kid was 23. Good shooter, fast learner, but this wasn't training. This was a meat grinder. Kane risked a glance over the boulder. Bad idea. Rounds chewed into the stone, spitting fragments into his face. He dropped back, swearing under his breath. "Orion 1, this is Orion 3. We are pinned," Rains yelled again, like saying it louder would change the math. It wouldn't. Kane counted bodies in his head. 7 operators, all accounted for, all trapped. The canyon was supposed to be a fallback route, a safe corridor out of the valley after the recon op went sideways. Intel said the area was clear. Intel lied. Now they were boxed in. Cliff walls on both sides, no cover worth a damn, and hostiles entrenched at the mouth of the canyon with overlapping fields of fire. Textbook L-shaped ambush. Clean, professional, deadly. "Kane!" That was Lieutenant Voss, pressed flat behind a cluster of boulders 20 yards back. Blood streaked down his sleeve, fragment wound from an RPG that had sailed wide and detonated against the canyon wall. He was still moving, still sharp, but his face had that look. The one that said, "We're out of moves." "I'm thinking," Kane shouted back. "Think faster." Another burst ripped overhead. Kane flinched. His hands were shaking. Not much, just enough. Enough to know the adrenaline was starting to turn on him. He keyed his radio. "Orion 1 to Overwatch, requesting immediate fire support, over." Static. "Overwatch, do you copy? We are danger close and taking sustained fire from Orion 1, Overwatch." The voice was calm, too calm. "Negative on fire support. No assets in range. Extraction window is 45 minutes out. Hold position." Kane's jaw tightened. "Hold position? We don't have 45 minutes." "Understood. Do what you can. Overwatch out." The line went dead. Kane stared at the radio like it had just betrayed him. "What'd they say?" Rains called out, eyes wide, hopeful. Kane didn't answer. He didn't have to. Rains's face went pale. The base. 14 miles southwest, forward operating base Sentinel sat quiet in the early morning light. It wasn't much. A cluster of prefab buildings, reinforced bunkers, and a perimeter fence that had seen better days. Most of the personnel had rotated out 2 weeks ago, reassigned, redeployed, sent somewhere that mattered. What was left was a skeleton crew. Maintenance. Logistics. People who kept the lights on while everyone else did the real work. Elena Varel was one of them. She sat in the corner of the armory workshop, a space so cramped and cluttered it barely qualified as a room. Shelves lined the walls, packed with spare parts, cleaning kits, tools she'd collected over the years. A workbench ran along the back wall, scarred and stained from 1,000 repairs. And in the center of it all, Elena. Small. 35. Dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. No makeup, no jewelry, nothing that drew attention. She wore the same faded fatigues every day. Sleeves rolled to the elbows, boots scuffed but clean. Her hands moved with the kind of precision that came from repetition, muscle memory. She was cleaning a rifle, field stripping it down to components, inspecting each piece with the focus of a surgeon. No one bothered her here. No one ever did. To most of the base, Elena Virel was furniture, the quiet tech who fixed weapons and didn't talk much. Competent, reliable, forgettable. She preferred it that way. The radio on the shelf crackled softly, white noise and fragments of distant chatter. It was an old unit, patched into an auxiliary channel most people didn't even know existed. She kept it on low. Background sound, something to fill the silence. She reached for a cleaning brush, dipped it in solvent. Danger close, and taking sustained fire from... Her hand froze. She turned her head slowly toward the radio. Static hissed. Then a voice broke through again, tight and desperate. "Overwatch, do you copy? We are danger close." Elena set the brush down carefully. Too carefully. She stood, moving to the radio, fingers hovering over the dial. Orion 1 to Overwatch, requesting immediate fire support. Over. Her breathing slowed. She knew that call sign. Orion. SEAL Reconnaissance Unit, operating out of Sentinel until last week. She'd prepped their weapons before the op, checked every rifle, every optic, every magazine. Professional, thorough, like always. She listened. Overwatch? Overwatch? Anyone reading this? We are pinned and taking casualties. Another voice cut in, calmer, clinical. Orion 1, Overwatch. Negative on fire support. No assets in range. Extraction window is 45 minutes out. Hold position. A pause. Then, hold position? We don't have 45 minutes. Understood. Do what you can. Overwatch out. Silence. Elena stared at the radio. Her jaw tightened. She turned, eyes scanning the room, settling on a steel case in the far corner. Matte black. Reinforced locks. Dust on the lid. No one had ever seen her open it. She crossed the room in 3 strides. Arsène, the canyon. Kane ducked as another burst chewed into the rock above him. Orion 3, I need eyes on that ridge, he shouted. Working on it, Rains yelled back, scanning through his optic. I count 5 hostiles dug in at 10 o'clock. Looks like PKM emplacement and shit, RPG team moving up on the right. Voss, I see them. The lieutenant shifted, snapping off 2 quick shots. One of the RPG operators stumbled back, but the other dropped behind cover, still holding the launcher. Kane's mind raced. They couldn't stay here. The enemy had position, numbers, and patience. Every second they stayed pinned was another second closer to getting overrun. But if they moved, they'd be exposed. Cut down in the open. Classic no-win. He keyed the radio again, switching to the team frequency. Listen up. We're going to move in pairs. Rains, you and Booker lay suppressing fire on that PKM nest. Voss, you're with me. We'll push up the left side, try to flank around, and... An explosion shattered the air. The shockwave slammed into Kane like a fist, throwing him sideways into the dirt. His ears went dead, just a high-pitched whine and the muffled thump of his own heartbeat. He blinked. Vision blurred. Someone was screaming. He rolled over, forcing himself up on one elbow. Dust everywhere, smoke rolling across the canyon floor. Where did that hit? Then he saw him. Corporal Booker, 30 feet back, draped across a rock, not moving, blood pooling underneath him. His leg was twisted at the wrong angle. Booker! Rains was already moving, scrambling across the open ground, completely exposed. Rains, stay down! The kid didn't listen. He slid in beside Booker, hands shaking as he checked for a pulse. He's breathing. He's bleeding bad. Get him to cover. Rains tried to lift him. Couldn't, too heavy, panic flooding his face. Kane made the call. He broke cover, sprinted across the kill zone, rounds snapping past his head, hitting the dirt around his boots. He didn't think, didn't slow, just ran. He grabbed Booker under the arms, Rains took the legs, and together they hauled him back behind the boulders. Medic! Medic! Doc Harris was already there, skinny kid from Ohio, with hands that never shook, even when everything else did. He dropped his rifle, ripped open his med kit, started packing the wound with gauze. Femoral's hit, Doc said, voice tight. I need pressure. Now! Kane pressed down hard. Warm blood soaked through his gloves. Booker's eyes fluttered open. unfocused, glassy. Hey, hey, stay with me, Kane said, leaning close. You're good. You're going to be fine. Booker's lips moved. No sound came out. Then his eyes rolled back. Booker! Doc's hands moved faster. He's in shock. BP's dropping. Do something! I am! Another explosion rocked the canyon. Closer this time. Kane looked up. Voss was still firing, but his movements were slower now. Fatigue setting in. Ammo running low. They were losing, and there was nothing Kane could do to stop it. The ridge. Elena moved like a ghost. No vehicle. No support. Just her boots on the dirt and the weight of the rifle case strapped across her back. The ridge was 2 miles from base, high ground overlooking the valley, clear sight lines for miles. She'd scouted it years ago, marked it, memorized the approach. Old habits. She climbed in silence, breathing steady, legs burning. The sun was just starting to crest the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and red. Beautiful, deadly. When she reached the top, she dropped to one knee, set the case down, and opened it. Inside, custom-built, long-range precision rifle, suppressed barrel, high-magnification optic, hand-loaded rounds calibrated for wind, temperature, and distance. She assembled it in under a minute. Then she dropped into position. Prone. Bipod deployed. Cheek pressed to the stock. Eye to the scope. The canyon came into view. She saw them immediately. 7 figures pinned behind cover, scattered across the canyon floor. Enemy forces dug in at the mouth. Overlapping fire. Disciplined positioning. Professional. She adjusted the scope. Ranging. Calculating. Distance. 1,847 meters. Wind. 6 miles per hour, left to right. Elevation, 340 feet. She exhaled slowly. Then, she dialed it in. The canyon. Kane was out of options. Booker was fading, Doc was doing everything he could, but it wasn't enough. They needed evac. They needed air support. They needed a miracle. He keyed the radio one last time. This is Orion 1 to any station, any frequency. We are 7 men down in Grid Echo 47, taking sustained fire. 1 critical casualty, requesting immediate support. His voice cracked. Please, if anyone can hear this, please. Static, just static. He let the radio fall. Voss looked over at him, face streaked with dust and sweat. Kane, I know. They both knew. This was it. Kane tightened his grip on his rifle, checked the mag. Half empty. He looked at Rains, at Doc, at the rest of his team. Good men, all of them. And he was about to watch them die. Then, crack! A single shot, sharp, distant, different. Kane's head snapped up. One of the hostiles at the canyon mouth dropped like a puppet with its strings cut. No scream, no warning, just gone. The enemy formation hesitated. Crack! Another shot. Another hostile down. Confusion rippled through their ranks. Kane grabbed his radio. Who the hell is covering us? A voice responded, calm, low, controlled. Overwatch active. It wasn't command. It wasn't air support. It was her. Batards. The ridge. Elena didn't rush. She didn't need to. Each shot was deliberate, calculated. A breath between heartbeats. Squeeze. Release. Move to the next target. The enemy didn't know where she was. Couldn't see her. Couldn't return fire. That was the point. She watched through the scope as their formation began to fracture. Panic spreading. Orders shouted. Weapons swinging wildly toward empty ridges. She adjusted. Fired. The PKM gunner dropped mid-burst. Adjusted again. Fired. The RPG operator collapsed before he could reload. Below, the SEAL team was moving now, taking advantage of the chaos, pushing forward, gaining ground. Elena's breathing stayed steady. In, out, in, out. She wasn't thinking about the men she was killing. She was thinking about the men she was saving. There was a difference. There had to be. The canyon. Move! Move! Kane was up, rifle high, advancing through the smoke. Voss was beside him, covering left. Rains and the others followed, tight formation, disciplined. The enemy was breaking, falling back, disorganized. Whatever ghost was out there, whoever was pulling that trigger, they just turned the entire fight upside down. Orion 1, Overwatch. The voice again. Calm. Enemy reinforcements moving in from the southeast. 2 vehicles. ETA 3 minutes. Recommend immediate extraction northwest through the gap. Kane didn't question it. You heard her. Northwest, double time. They moved. Doc and Rains carried Booker between them, moving fast despite the weight. Voss cleared corners. Kane covered the rear. And every time an enemy tried to regroup, crack! They went down. It was surgical, unreal. Kane had never seen anything like it. Who is that? Rains panted as they ran. I don't know, Kane said, but I'm buying her a drink when this is over. They cleared the canyon in 4 minutes. The extraction bird was waiting, 7 men, all alive, because of one shot, and then another, and another. The ridge. Elena stayed in position until the helicopter lifted off. She watched it disappear over the horizon. Then she stood, disassembled the rifle, and packed it back into the case. No celebration, no relief, just the wind across the ridge and the empty sky above. She started the long walk back to base. No one would know she'd been gone. No one ever did. But as she walked, her hands were shaking. Just a little. Just enough. Because for the first time in 5 years, she'd pulled the trigger again. And she didn't know if that made her a savior, or just a killer who got lucky. The sun was higher now, cutting sharp shadows across the base perimeter as Elena slipped back through the gap in the fence she'd used on the way out. No guards, no checkpoints, no one who cared. She moved along the backside of the armory, rifle case slung low, boots barely making sound on the gravel. The base was waking up, voices drifting from the mess hall, the distant clank of a supply truck backing into the motor pool. Normal, routine, invisible. She pushed through the side door of the workshop, locked it behind her, and set the case down exactly where it had been. Dust still on the lid, undisturbed. She sat at the workbench, hands flat on the scarred wood, and stared at nothing. Her pulse was still elevated. Not much, just enough to notice. The rifle she'd been cleaning earlier was still disassembled, parts laid out in neat rows, solvent evaporating in the morning heat. She picked up the bolt carrier, turned it over in her hands. Her fingers were steady now. They always were. Afterward. She exhaled slowly, then started reassembling the weapon with the same mechanical precision she'd shown 1,000 times before. Nothing had changed. Nothing at all. Except 7 men were still breathing, and she was the only one who knew why. That command center. Major David Harlan stood in front of a wall of monitors, jaw tight, eyes locked on the drone feed replaying for the 3rd time. The footage was grainy, high-altitude thermal, shot from an MQ-9 orbiting at 20,000 feet. But it was clear enough. 7 heat signatures clustered in the canyon, hostile contacts surrounding them. Then, one by one, those contacts went dark. Precise, methodical. No return fire, no visible source, just ghosts dropping. Run it back, Harlan said. The intelligence analyst, a rail-thin captain named Morris with glasses that kept sliding down his nose, tapped a few keys. The footage rewound, played again. Harlan leaned closer. There, he pointed at the screen. Top right, that ridge. Morris zoomed in. The image pixelated, then sharpened. A single heat signature. Faint, almost invisible against the ambient temperature of the rock. One person, prone position. How far is that from the canyon? Harlan asked. Morris checked the coordinates. 1,800 meters, give or take. Harlan's eyes narrowed. 1,800. Yes, sir. And you're telling me one shooter, dropped 11 hostiles from that distance in under an hour? That's what the data shows. Harlan straightened, arms crossed. He'd been in the military for 22 years, seen combat in 3 different theaters, worked with snipers, recon marines, Delta operators, the best of the best. And he'd never seen anything like this. Do we have an ID? He asked. Morris shook his head. Negative. No radio chatter, no insignia visible on thermal, no unit logged any sniper deployments in that sector. Then who the hell was it? Unknown, sir. Harlan stared at the screen. Unknown. He didn't like unknowns. Pull the comms logs from Sentinel, every frequency. I want to know if anyone made contact with Orion during that window. Already did, sir. Nothing official, but Morris hesitated. But what? There's an auxiliary channel, low priority maintenance frequency. Hasn't been used in months. But there was activity this morning. Someone was listening. Listening to what? Orion's distress call. Harlan's jaw tightened. Who? Morris pulled up a duty roster on the adjacent screen. His finger traced down the list of personnel still stationed at Sentinel. Only a handful of people have access to that channel. Logistics, comms, techs, and... He stopped. And? Weapons maintenance. One name flagged. Civilian contractor. Elena Virel. Harlan frowned. Viral. The name didn't ring a bell. Morris typed quickly, pulling up her file. And then he froze. Sir? What? Morris turned the monitor toward him. Harlan read the screen. Tier 0 clearance, redacted service record, no unit history, no deployments listed, just a single line at the bottom of the file. Call sign, Phantom 9. Status, inactive. Harlan's blood went cold. Get her in here, he said quietly. Sir? Now. The mess hall. Kane sat alone at a corner table, staring at a plate of food he wasn't eating. His hands were still shaking. Just a little. Just enough. Booker was stable. Medevac to a field hospital an hour after they landed. The doc said he'd live. Probably keep the leg. Probably. That was the word they kept using. Probably. Kane pushed the tray away. Across the hall, Rains and Voss were sitting with the rest of the team, voices low, faces still pale. They looked like men who'd seen the edge and stepped back just in time. Because they had. Rains caught Kane's eye, nodded once. Kane nodded back. No words. None needed. Then the door banged open and Captain Morris walked in, scanning the room. His eyes landed on Kane. Sergeant. Kane stood. Sir. Major Harlan wants to see you, now. What for? Debriefing. Kane frowned. We already filed the after-action report. This isn't about the report. Morris's expression was unreadable. This is about who saved your ass out there. Kane's pulse kicked up a notch. You found them? Morris didn't answer, just turned and walked out. Kane followed. The workshop. Elena was halfway through reassembling the rifle when the door rattled. She didn't flinch, didn't look up, just kept working. The knock came again, harder. Virel, open up. She recognized the voice. Captain Morris. Intelligence, the kind of man who lived in spreadsheets and satellite imagery and never got his hands dirty. She set down the upper receiver, wiped her hands on a rag, and crossed to the door. Unlocked it. Morris stood in the doorway, flanked by two MPs, young, stiff, hands resting a little too casually near their sidearms. Elena looked at them, then back at Morris. Problem? She asked. Major Harlan wants to see you. About? He'll explain. Elena's expression didn't change. I'm in the middle of something. It wasn't a request. She held his gaze for a long moment. Then she stepped back, grabbed her jacket off the chair, and walked out without a word. The MPs fell in behind her. Morris watched her go, then glanced into the workshop. Everything was neat. Orderly. Tools on hooks, parts labeled. Nothing out of place. Except the rifle on the bench. He stepped closer, eyes narrowing. Custom built. High-end optic. Precision components. Not standard issue. He made a mental note. Then he turned and followed her out. Eek. Command center. Harlan was waiting when they brought her in. The room was small, concrete walls, no windows, a single table with two chairs. The kind of room where difficult conversations happened. Elena walked in, hands loose at her sides, face neutral. Harlan studied her. Small, maybe 5'4", early 30s. Dark hair pulled back tight, no makeup, no jewelry. The kind of person you'd walk past in a hallway and forget 30 seconds later, except for her eyes. Calm, focused, too steady. The eyes of someone who'd seen things. Sit, Harlan said. Elena sat. He remained standing, arms crossed. Do you know why you're here? No. You're a weapons tech. Civilian contractor. Is that correct? Yes. How long have you been at Sentinel? 14 months. And before that? Maintenance rotation at Camp Pendleton. Before that, Fort Bragg. That's what your file says. Harlan leaned forward, hands flat on the table. But we both know there's more to it than that. Elena didn't blink. Is there? You tell me. Silence. Harlan pulled out a tablet, swiped to the drone footage, and turned it toward her. This morning, ridge overlooking the canyon, someone took 11 confirmed kills from 1,800 meters in under an hour, saved an entire SEAL team from annihilation. He paused. Was that you? Elena looked at the screen. Her expression didn't change. No. You're lying. I'm not. Harlan's jaw tightened. You had access to the auxiliary comms channel. You heard Orion's distress call, and the thermal signature matches a single shooter in a position you could have easily reached from this base. Thermal signatures don't prove identity, Elena said quietly. Could have been anyone. Anyone with Tier 0 clearance and a call sign that officially doesn't exist? Harlan tapped the screen. Phantom 9. That's you, isn't it? Elena's face went very still. For the first time, something flickered behind her eyes. Not fear, recognition. That designation was retired, she said carefully. So you admit it was yours? Was, past tense. Harlan straightened. Then let's talk about the past. Because your file is a black hole. No service record, no deployments, no unit history. Just a clearance level that shouldn't exist and a call sign tied to a unit that was disbanded 6 years ago. He leaned closer. What happened out there, Varel? What did you do that got you buried this deep? Elena held his gaze. I fixed weapons. I still do. Bullshit. Her jaw tightened. Just a fraction. Just enough. Harlan saw it. You want to play it that way? Fine. I'll make some calls, pull some strings, dig up every classified file with your name on it until I find out exactly who you are and what you're hiding. Elena's voice stayed level. You won't find anything. Why not? Because the people who know don't talk, and the files that matter don't exist anymore. Harlan stared at her. She stared back, unblinking. He realized something in that moment. She wasn't afraid of him. She wasn't afraid of anything, and that scared him more than he wanted to admit. The hallway. Kane was waiting outside the door when they brought her out. Elena walked past him without looking, MPS on either side. Hey, Kane called after her. She stopped, turned slowly. Kane stepped forward, ignoring the MP's warning glances. I don't know who you are, he said quietly, but I know what you did. And I know you saved my team. Elena's expression was unreadable. I'm just a tech. No. Kane shook his head. You're not. Their eyes met. For a moment, something passed between them. Understanding, recognition. Kane had seen shooters before, knew the way they moved, the way they carried themselves, the weight they held behind their eyes. She had it, all of it. Thank you, he said. Elena's jaw tightened. She looked away. Don't, she said softly. Why not? Because you don't know what you're thanking me for. And then she walked away. Kane watched her go, something heavy settling in his chest. Voss appeared beside him, arms crossed. That her? Yeah. Doesn't look like much. Kane didn't answer, because that was the point. What? The barracks. Elena sat on the edge of her bunk, hands clasped, staring at the floor. The barracks were empty. Everyone else was on duty or in the mess. Just her and the silence. She should have felt relief. Harlan hadn't pushed further, hadn't arrested her, hadn't pulled her clearance. He'd let her walk. For now. But she knew how this worked. He'd dig. He'd call in favors. He'd find people who remembered things they weren't supposed to. And eventually, the truth would surface. It always did. She reached under the bunk, pulled out a small metal lockbox, and opened it. Inside, 3 items. A faded photograph. 5 people in tactical gear, faces blurred by time and dust. Helmets off. Smiles wide. Young. Confident. A challenge coin. Black matte finish. No insignia. Just a number on one side, 9. And a folded piece of paper, yellowed, creased. She didn't unfold it. Didn't need to. She'd memorized the words years ago. Mission failure. Personnel lost. Unit disbanded. Sole survivor flagged for psych eval and indefinite suspension from active duty. She stared at the photograph. 4 faces. All dead. Because of her. She closed the box, slid it back under the bunk, and stood. Her reflection stared back at her from the small mirror on the wall. Same face, same eyes. But different. Always different. She turned away. The command center. Late afternoon. Harlan was alone when the encrypted call came through. He answered on the second ring. Major Harlan. The voice on the other end was cold, clipped, no introduction. You made inquiries about Phantom 9. Harlan straightened. That's correct. I need confirmation on... Stop. He blinked. Excuse me? You don't have clearance for this conversation. You don't have clearance for that file. And if you continue down this path, you'll be removed from command before the end of the week. Harlan's blood went cold. Who is this? Someone telling you to drop it. I have a right to know who... You have a right to follow orders. That's all. A pause. Elena Virel is not your concern. What she did. What she is. None of it falls under your jurisdiction. She just saved 7 of my men. And for that, you should be grateful. But push any further, and you'll regret it. The line went dead. Harlan stared at the phone. His hands were shaking. Not from fear, from anger. He'd been a soldier long enough to recognize a cover-up when he saw one. And this wasn't just a cover-up. This was a burial. The workshop. Evening. Elena was locking up when Kane appeared in the doorway. She didn't look surprised. You're persistent, she said. So I've been told. Kane stepped inside, glancing around. Can we talk? About what? About why you're pretending to be someone you're not. Elena's hand stilled on the lock. I'm not pretending. Yeah, you are. Kane moved closer, voice low. I've worked with enough operators to know one when I see one. The way you move, the way you talk, the way you shut down when someone gets too close. He paused. You were one of us, weren't you? Elena turned slowly, eyes meeting his. That life's over. Why? Because it has to be. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. Kane studied her for a long moment. My team's alive because of you. That means something. It shouldn't. Why not? Elena's jaw tightened. Because the last time I pulled that trigger, the people I was supposed to protect didn't make it home. The words hung in the air. Raw. Honest. Kane didn't flinch. What happened? Elena looked away. I can't talk about it. Can't? Or won't? Both. Silence. Kane exhaled slowly. Look, I don't know your story, and maybe I don't need to, but whatever happened, whatever you think you did wrong, it doesn't change what you did today. Elena's hands clenched. You saved us, Kane continued, all of us, and I don't care what's in your file or who's trying to bury it. That counts for something. Elena's voice came out barely above a whisper. It doesn't bring them back. No, it doesn't. Kane's tone softened. But it keeps us here. And that has to mean something too. Elena didn't respond. She couldn't. Because part of her wanted to believe him, and part of her knew better. The ridge. Midnight. Elena stood alone on the ridge where she'd taken the shots. The canyon stretched out below her, dark and silent under a sky full of stars. She'd come back without thinking, driven by something she couldn't name. The wind was colder now, sharper. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in years, she let herself remember. 6 years ago. The mission was supposed to be clean, in and out. Extract the target, no casualties. But the intel was wrong. They'd walked into an ambush. 5 operators, Tier 0 clearance, the best of the best. And she was their overwatch. Phantom 9, the ghost who made sure they came home. Except this time, she didn't. She'd taken the shot too early, miscalculated the wind. The round sailed wide by 3 inches. 3 inches. And in that half-second of hesitation, the enemy opened fire. She'd tried to compensate, fired again. But it was too late. 4 operators went down before she could adjust. 4 people she'd trained with, fought beside, trusted, dead. Because she missed. The 5th, her team leader, a man named Garrett, made it out. Barely. He never spoke to her again. And 2 weeks later, the unit was disbanded. Phantom 9 became a ghost in every sense of the word. Buried. Forgotten. Erased. The ridge. Present. Elena opened her eyes. The canyon was still dark, still silent, but this time no one had died. This time she hadn't missed. She didn't know if that made it better, or just prolonged the inevitable. She turned and walked back toward the base. Behind her, the stars burned cold and distant, witnesses to a truth no one would ever speak. The barracks. Early morning. Elena woke to the sound of voices outside. Low. Urgent. She sat up, boots already on, instincts firing. The door burst open. Morris stood in the doorway, flanked by 4 MPs. Elena Varel, you're being recalled to active duty. Elena's blood went cold. No. It's not optional. Orders came down from Joint Special Operations Command, effective immediately. I'm retired. You were never retired. You were suspended, and now you're reinstated. Morris stepped forward, dropped a file on her bunk. Mission briefing in 1 hour. Gear up. Elena stared at the file, then at Morris. And if I refuse? Morris's expression was hard. Then you'll be detained for insubordination and court-martialed. Your choice. He turned and walked out. The MPs stayed, watching, waiting. Elena's hands trembled as she picked up the file, opened it, and felt the ground drop out from under her. The target's photo stared back at her. A face she knew. A face she thought she'd never see again. Garrett. The man who'd survived. The man who'd blamed her. The man who'd disappeared into the shadows 6 years ago. And now he was the mission. Her heart hammered in her chest. This wasn't a coincidence. This was a reckoning. Elena stared at the photograph until the edges blurred. Garrett. Older now. Harder. The boyish face she remembered had been carved away by time and whatever he'd become in the years since. Scars traced his jawline. Eyes that used to carry warmth now held nothing but cold calculation. But it was him. The last man standing from Phantom Unit. The man who'd looked at her across a debriefing room 6 years ago and said 5 words that broke something inside her she'd never been able to fix. You should have taken the shot. She closed the file slowly, hands steady despite the storm building in her chest. The MPs were still watching, waiting. She stood, grabbed her jacket, and walked past them without a word. Briefing room. 0600 hours. The room was packed. Harlan stood at the front, arms crossed, face carved from stone. Behind him, a screen displayed satellite imagery, compound structures, terrain analysis, heat signatures. Kane and his team sat in the front row, still bruised from yesterday's firefight. Voss had his arm in a sling. Rains looked like he hadn't slept. And in the back corner, isolated from the rest, sat Elena, silent, invisible, exactly where she wanted to be. Harlan's eyes swept the room, landing on her for just a moment longer than necessary. Then he began. 72 hours ago, intelligence flagged a high-value target operating out of a compound in the Korengal Valley. Former Special Operations Tier 0 clearance. Went dark 6 years ago after his unit was disbanded. He clicked the remote. Garrett's face filled the screen. Marcus Garrett. Former call sign, Phantom Lead. currently running arms to insurgent groups across 3 countries. He's got resources, connections, and a body count that makes most warlords look like amateurs. Murmurs rippled through the room. Kane leaned forward. What's the mission? Capture or kill? Preferably capture. Command wants him alive for interrogation. Harlan paused. But if that's not an option, put him down. What's the timeline? Insertion at 0400 tomorrow. You'll have a 12-hour window before his security rotates and the compound goes into lockdown. Kane nodded slowly, processing. Boss raised his hand. Who's running Overwatch? Harlan's jaw tightened. Virel. The room went silent. Every head turned. Elena didn't move, didn't react, just sat there, face neutral, hands folded in her lap. Kane's eyes widened. Sir, with all due respect, it's not up for debate, Sergeant. Harlan's voice cut through the room like a blade. She's the best long-range asset we have. And given what she did yesterday, I'd say she's earned the position. But that's final. Kane's mouth snapped shut. His eyes flicked to Elena. She met his gaze, and for the first time he saw something there. Not fear, not hesitation. Something colder. Harlan continued. Viral will provide overwatch from an elevated position 2 clicks out. She'll have eyes on the compound and full comms access. Any hostile movement, she neutralizes it. Any complications, she clears the path. You focus on extraction. He clicked to the next slide. Compound schematics, entry points, patrol routes. Questions? Rains raised his hand. What if Garrett doesn't come quietly? Harlan's expression didn't change. Then you make sure he doesn't leave at all. Armory. 800 hours. Elena was alone when Kane found her. She was assembling her rifle, the same custom build from the Ridge. Each piece clicked into place with surgical precision. No wasted movement. No hesitation. Kane stood in the doorway, watching. You knew him, he said quietly. Elena's hands didn't stop. Yes. How? We served together. In Phantom Unit. She glanced up. Harlan briefed you. He gave me the highlights, left out the important parts. Kane stepped closer. Like why a unit that good got disbanded, and why you're the only one left. Elena's jaw tightened. She turned back to the rifle, threading the suppressor onto the barrel. It's classified. So's half the shit I've done. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. Silence. Kane leaned against the workbench. Look, I don't care what the file says, but if this mission's personal, I need to know, because personal gets people killed. Elena's hands stilled. She set down the rifle, turned to face him fully. 6 years ago, my unit was sent to extract a diplomat from a hostile zone. 5 operators. I was Overwatch. The intel said light resistance. It was wrong. Her voice was level, too level. We walked into an ambush. I had the shot. Enemy commander, 70 meters out, clear line of sight. I hesitated. Second-guessed the wind. Adjusted. Took too long. She paused. By the time I pulled the trigger, 4 of my team were already dead. Garrett was the only one who made it out, and he blamed me. Rightfully. Kane's expression softened. It was bad intel. Not your fault. I was the sniper. It was my job to see what they couldn't, to protect them, and I failed. So you buried yourself. Elena looked away. It was easier than living with it. Kane exhaled slowly. And now you're being sent after the one guy who knows exactly what happened. Yes. That's not a coincidence. No, it's not. Then why'd you accept? Elena met his eyes. Because I didn't have a choice, and because maybe it's time to stop running. Kane studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. All right, but out there, when it counts, I need to know you're with us, not stuck in the past. I won't miss, Elena said quietly. That's not what I asked. She held his gaze. I'm with you. Kane wasn't sure he believed her, but he nodded anyway. Insertion. 0400 hours. The Black Hawk cut through the night sky like a shadow, rotors thumping a steady rhythm against the darkness. Elena sat in the back, rifle strapped across her chest, eyes closed. Not sleeping, just listening, breathing. Across from her, Kane and his team ran final checks. Magazines loaded, comms tested, NVGs calibrated. Professional, efficient. They'd done this 100 times. But Elena could feel the tension radiating off them. This wasn't a standard op. This was personal, and everyone knew it. The pilot's voice crackled over the headset. 2 minutes to drop zone. Kane looked up, caught Elena's eye. You good? She nodded. Radio check when you're in position. Copy. The helicopter banked hard, descending fast. Elena's stomach dropped, but her face stayed neutral. 30 seconds. The door gunner slid the side door open. Wind roared into the cabin, cold and sharp. Kane stood, bracing against the frame. His team fell in behind him. The helo flared, hovering 3 feet off the ground. Go! 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 They jumped, one by one disappearing into the darkness. Elena moved to the door, rifle in hand. The pilot glanced back. You sure about this? She didn't answer, just jumped. The ridge. 0430 hours, Elena moved through the darkness like smoke. No light, no sound, just the whisper of boots on rock and the distant hum of insects. The ridge overlooked the valley, a natural sniper's perch with clear sight lines to the compound below. She'd studied the terrain for hours, memorized every angle, every shadow. This wasn't luck. This was preparation. She dropped into position, deploying the bipod, settling the rifle into the pocket of her shoulder. The scope came up, infrared engaged. The compound materialized in shades of green and white. 3 buildings. Reinforced walls. Guard towers at each corner. Patrol routes predictable but overlapping. Professional setup. Garrett's work. She keyed her radio. Overwatch in position. I have eyes on target location. Kane's voice came back immediately. Copy Overwatch. We're moving to entry point Alpha. ETA 6 minutes. Understood. Stand by. Elena scanned the compound methodically, counting guards, mapping movement patterns, identifying weak points. 12 hostiles visible, likely more inside. Her breathing slowed, heartbeat steadied. The rifle became an extension of her body. And for the first time in 6 years, she felt the weight of what she used to be settle back onto her shoulders. Not heavy. Familiar. The compound. 0445 hours. Kane pressed his back against the outer wall, hand raised in a fist. The team froze. He peered around the corner. 2 guards, 20 meters out. AKs slung casually over their shoulders. Smoking. Talking in low voices. Sloppy. He signaled Voss. 2 fingers. Left side. Voss nodded, moving into position. Kane keyed his radio, voice barely a whisper. Overwatch. I need eyes on the north entrance. 2 hostiles. Can you confirm clear beyond? Elena's voice came through, calm and controlled. Confirmed. 2 guards at the entrance. 3rd hostile on the roof, northeast corner, 40 meters. Can you take the roof? Affirmative. On your mark. Kane counted down silently. 3, 2, 1. Mark. A single suppressed shot whispered through the night. The guard on the roof dropped without a sound. The 2 at the entrance never noticed. Kane and Voss moved as one. Silent, fast, deadly. Knives drawn. No gunfire. 5 seconds later, both guards were down. Kane dragged one body into the shadows. Entry point clear, moving inside. Copy. I've got your 6. They breached the door. Inside the compound. 0452 hours. The interior was dimly lit, bare concrete walls, flickering fluorescent lights, the smell of sweat and gun oil. Kane moved down the corridor, rifle up, scanning corners. Voss covered rear. Rains and the others fanned out, clearing rooms one by one. Clear, clear, clear. Then a voice ahead. Footsteps. Kane raised his fist. Everyone froze. 2 hostiles rounded the corner, AKs low, relaxed, mid-conversation. They saw Kane. Eyes widened. Too late. Kane's rifle barked twice. Both men dropped. Alarms screamed to life. Shit! Rains hissed. Kane's radio crackled. You've got incoming. 4 hostiles from the east wing, 3 from the south. Copy. Fall back to the stairwell. We'll bottleneck them. The team moved fast, taking cover behind overturned tables and concrete pillars. The first wave hit hard. Gunfire erupted. Muzzle flashes lit up the corridor like strobe lights. Kane fired controlled bursts, dropping one hostile then another. Voss threw a flashbang. The explosion was deafening. Screams, confusion. They pushed forward, but more kept coming. "Overwatch, I need support," Kane shouted. "Working on it." "What?" "The ridge." 04:55 hours, Elena's scope tracked movement through the compound windows. Thermal signatures. 8. No, 9. Converging on Kane's position from multiple angles. She adjusted her aim. Wind, negligible. Distance, 1,423 meters. Angle, 12 degrees down. She exhaled, fired. The window shattered. A hostile dropped mid-sprint. Adjusted. Fired. Another down. The enemy scattered, confusion spreading. Elena didn't stop, shot after shot, precise, methodical, breaking their momentum, buying Kane the seconds he needed. Her radio crackled. "Overwatch, whatever you're doing, keep doing it." She didn't respond, just kept firing. Inside the compound, 04:58 hours, Kane pushed through the smoke, rifle blazing. Bodies littered the floor. Some his kills, some Elena's. The pressure was lifting. "Second floor!" Voss shouted, pointing up the stairwell. They climbed fast, boots pounding metal steps. At the top, a heavy steel door, locked. Rains pulled out a breaching charge, slapped it on the hinges. "Back! Back!" The charge detonated. The door blew inward. Kane stormed through and stopped. The room was empty, except for one man. Garrett. He stood in the center, hands loose at his sides, no weapon visible. Older, harder, scarred, but calm. Too calm. "Took you long enough," Garrett said. Kane raised his rifle. "On your knees, hands behind your head." Garrett didn't move. "You really think I didn't know you were coming?" "I said on your knees." "Or what? You'll shoot me?" Garrett smiled, cold, empty. "You need me alive. That's why she's out there, isn't it?" Kane's finger tightened on the trigger. "Last warning." Garrett's eyes flicked past him. "Tell Elena I said hello." Kane's blood went cold. How did he... The window exploded inward. Garrett moved, fast. He grabbed a pistol from the table behind him, swung it toward Kane. Crack! The shot came from nowhere. Garrett's pistol flew from his hand, blood spraying from his palm. He stumbled back, cursing, clutching his wrist. Kane surged forward, slamming him against the wall. "Don't move!" Garrett laughed, bitter, broken. She didn't miss this time. The ridge. 0500 hours, Elena's scope tracked Garrett through the shattered window. He was on his knees now, hands zip-tied, blood dripping from his palm. Kane was reading him his rights. It was over. She should have felt relief, closure, something, but all she felt was empty. Her radio crackled. "Overwatch. Target secured. Good shooting." She keyed the mic. "Copy. Extraction?" "Inbound. 2 minutes." Elena lowered the rifle, hands shaking. Just a little. Just enough. She'd done it, taken the shot, not missed. But it didn't bring them back. It never would. Compound courtyard. 0510 hours. The Black Hawk descended in a storm of dust and noise. Kane hauled Garrett to his feet, shoving him toward the bird. Garrett stumbled, then looked back over his shoulder. "She's watching, isn't she?" Kane didn't answer. "Tell her something for me." Garrett's voice was low, barely audible over the rotors. "Tell her it wasn't her fault, it was mine." Kane froze. "What?" "The mission. 6 years ago. I gave the order to push forward, ignored her warning about the approach vector. Thought I knew better." Garrett's face twisted. "I was wrong, and when it all went to hell, I blamed her because it was easier than admitting I got my own team killed." Kane's grip tightened. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I'm done running, and maybe she should be too." The helicopter touched down. Kane shoved Garrett inside, then climbed in after him. The bird lifted off, banking hard toward the horizon, and below, on a distant ridge, a lone figure stood watching. The ridge, 0515 hours. Elena watched the helicopter disappear into the dawn. Then she turned away, packed up her rifle, and started the long walk back. Behind her, the sun crested the mountains, painting the valley in gold and red. Beautiful. Deadly. Same as always. But this time something was different. This time she'd taken the shot. And for the first time in 6 years, it felt like maybe, just maybe, she could breathe again. Forward Operating Base Sentinel, 1200 hours. Harlan was waiting when the convoy rolled in. Garrett was dragged out of the truck, still zip-tied, blood crusted on his hand. Harlan watched him being escorted to the detention block, face unreadable. Then he turned. Elena stood at the edge of the compound, rifle case slung over her shoulder, face shadowed by the afternoon sun. Their eyes met. Harlan nodded once. Elena nodded back. No words. None needed. She turned and walked toward the armory, invisible again, just the way she liked it. The workshop. 1400 hours, Kane found her cleaning her rifle. Same as always. He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Garrett asked me to give you a message. Elena didn't look up. I don't want to hear it. He said it wasn't your fault. The mission 6 years ago. He gave the order, ignored your warning, and when it went wrong, he blamed you because it was easier. Elena's hands stilled. She set down the cleaning rod slowly. He's lying. Maybe, but I don't think so. Kane stepped inside. I've seen enough men carry guilt to know what it looks like, and he's carrying a lot. Elena's jaw tightened. It doesn't change what happened. No, but it changes who's responsible. Silence. Elena turned, meeting his eyes. Does it matter? Yeah, Kane said quietly. I think it does. She looked away. They're still dead. And you're still alive. That has to count for something. Elena didn't respond. Kane studied her for a long moment. Then he pulled something from his pocket and set it on the workbench. A challenge coin. Same design as the one in her lockbox. Number 1. Phantom lead. He wanted you to have this, Kane said. Said you earned it 6 years ago, and definitely earned it today. Elena stared at the coin. Then she picked it up. Cold, heavy, real. Thank you, she whispered. Kane nodded. For what it's worth, you saved us. Again. And I don't think you're done saving people. He turned to leave, stopped at the door. We could use someone like you, if you ever decide you're ready. Then he was gone. Elena sat alone in the workshop, coin in one hand, rifle in the other. Two sides of the same person. Killer, savior, ghost. For the first time in 6 years, she didn't know which one she wanted to be. But maybe that was okay. Maybe not knowing meant she still had a choice. She set the coin down beside the photograph in her lockbox. 5 faces, 4 dead, 1 still fighting. Not for them, for the one still breathing. And maybe that was enough. Detention block, 1800 hours. Garrett sat alone in the holding cell, back against the wall, bandaged hand resting on his knee. The door opened. Harlan stepped inside. You wanted to talk, Harlan said. Garrett looked up. I want immunity. For what? Everything. Full disclosure, names, locations, supplier networks, all of it. Harlan's eyes narrowed. In exchange for? One thing. Garrett's voice was quiet. Drop the charges against Elena Virel. Clear her record. Give her back what I took from her. She's not charged with anything. Not officially, but we both know she's been buried, blacklisted, erased, because of me, because I needed someone to blame. Garrett's face hardened. Fix it, or I don't talk. Harlan stared at him, then slowly he nodded. I'll see what I can do. Garrett leaned back, closing his eyes. Good. And for the first time in 6 years, he felt the weight start to lift. Not much, but enough. The Ridge, midnight. Elena stood on the ridge one last time. Same spot, same stars, different ending. She closed her eyes, letting the wind wash over her, and somewhere in the darkness she heard them. Not voices, just echoes, memories, ghosts. But quieter now, softer, almost like forgiveness. She opened her eyes, and for the first time in 6 years she smiled. Not much, but enough. Then she turned and walked away, leaving the past where it belonged, behind her. The walk back from the ridge took 30 minutes, long enough for Elena's thoughts to settle into something resembling clarity. Short enough that the adrenaline hadn't fully worn off. She slipped through the perimeter fence the same way she always did. South corner, blind spot in the camera coverage, gap between patrol routes. Muscle memory from a life that had never really left her. The base was quiet. Most personnel were asleep or on night watch, just the hum of generators and the distant murmur of voices from the guard posts. Elena moved through the shadows toward the barracks, but she never made it. Virel! She stopped. Harlan stepped out from beside the supply depot, arms crossed, face half lit by the overhead lights. He'd been waiting. Major, she said quietly, walk with me. It wasn't a request. They moved in silence toward the command building, boots crunching on gravel. Harlan's jaw was tight, hands clasped behind his back, the posture of a man carrying decisions he didn't want to make. He led her inside, down a corridor she'd never been cleared for, and into a small office. No windows, just a desk, 2 chairs, and a wall of filing cabinets marked with classification stamps. He closed the door. Sit. Elena sat. Harlan remained standing, studying her with the kind of focus that made most people uncomfortable. Elena just waited. Finally, he spoke. I made some calls after you left. Pulled strings I probably shouldn't have pulled. Talked to people who don't like being talked to. He paused. You want to know what I found? Not particularly. Too bad. Harlan leaned against the desk. Your record's cleaner than mine. No disciplinary actions, no failed missions. Commendations I'm not cleared to read. Kill count in the triple digits. And a psych eval that flagged you as one of the most stable operators the program ever produced. Elena's expression didn't change. So I had to ask myself, Harlan continued, why would someone like that disappear? Why would they bury themselves in a maintenance job at a backwater FOB in the middle of nowhere? Maybe I wanted out. No. People who want out retire, go home, find something normal. His eyes narrowed. You didn't retire. You vanished. And the only people who do that are either running from something or protecting someone. Silence. Elena held his gaze. Harlan exhaled slowly. Garrett talked, gave us everything, names, routes, suppliers. But he also gave us something else. He pulled a folder from the desk drawer and dropped it in front of her. Elena didn't open it. He confessed, Harlan said, to the mission 6 years ago. Said he overrode your tactical assessment, pushed the team into a compromised position against your explicit warning, and when it went sideways, he blamed you to cover his own failure. Elena's jaw tightened. It's in the past. Is it? Harlan leaned forward. Because from where I'm standing, you've been carrying his mistake for 6 years, and the only reason anyone knows the truth now is because he finally grew a conscience. What do you want from me, Major? I want to know if you're done hiding. Elena looked away. I'm not hiding. You are. And I get it. Losing your team, that kind of guilt doesn't just go away. But you saved 7 men 2 days ago, and you brought in a high-value target that Intel's been chasing for half a decade. That's not the work of someone who's finished. Maybe I got lucky. Twice? Harlan shook his head. No, that's skill, training, instinct, the kind of thing you don't just lose because you take a break. Elena's hands clenched in her lap. What's your point? My point is I'm reinstating you, officially, full clearance, full authority. You'll be attached to Kane's unit as primary overwatch and tactical advisor. No, it's not optional. Then court-martial me. Elena stood. I'm not doing this again. Harlan's voice hardened. You think you get to choose? You think you can save lives when it's convenient and disappear when it's not? I'm a civilian contractor. You can't force me. You were never a civilian. Harlan's voice cracked like a whip. Your contract was a cover. Your clearance never expired. You've been on inactive reserve this entire time, and I just activated you. So yes, I can force you. And I am. Elena's blood went cold. You had no right. I had every right. You're an asset. A damn good one. And I'm not letting you waste that because you're too afraid to face what you used to be. Elena's hands trembled. You don't know what you're asking. I know exactly what I'm asking. Harlan's tone softened, just slightly. I'm asking you to stop punishing yourself for something that wasn't your fault. I'm asking you to be the operator you were trained to be, and I'm asking you to trust that the people who need you are worth the risk. Elena stared at him. Then she turned and walked to the door. I need time to think. You have 24 hours, Harlan said. After that, you're either on the team or you're in detention for refusing a direct order. Elena's hand froze on the doorknob. She didn't look back, just opened the door and left. Done. The mess hall. 700 hours, Kane was pouring coffee when Elena walked in. She looked like she hadn't slept. Shadows under her eyes, jaw tight, hands shoved deep in her pockets. He grabbed a second cup, filled it, and slid it across the table as she sat down. Rough night? He asked. Something like that. Kane sipped his coffee, watching her. Harlan talked to you. How'd you know? Because he talked to me first, wanted my opinion on bringing you onto the team. Elena's eyes flicked up. And what did you say? I said if you're half as good as the rumors suggest, we'd be idiots not to. The rumors are exaggerated. Are they? Kane leaned back. Because from where I'm sitting, you've pulled off 2 impossible shots in as many days. That's not exaggeration. That's proof. Elena looked away. It's not that simple. It never is. Kane set down his cup. But here's what I know. My team's alive because of you. Booker's gonna walk again because you bought us the time to get him out. And Garrett's in custody because you didn't hesitate when it mattered. He paused. That counts for something, whether you want it to or not. Elena's voice was barely above a whisper. What if I miss? Then you miss, and we adapt. Same as we always do. Kane's expression softened. You're not carrying this alone anymore. That's what a team is for. Elena stared at her coffee. Then she nodded, slowly, reluctantly. 24 hours, she said. That's what Harlan gave me. And? I don't know yet. Kane stood, clapped her on the shoulder. Fair enough. But for what it's worth, I hope you stay. He walked out, leaving her alone with her thoughts. But detention block. 1,000 hours. Elena stood outside Garrett's cell for a full minute before she opened the door. He was sitting on the bunk, back against the wall, bandaged hand resting on his knee. He looked up when she entered. No surprise, no fear, just exhaustion. Figured you'd show up eventually, he said. Elena closed the door behind her. You talked. Yeah. Why? Garrett shrugged. Because I'm tired. Tired of running, tired of lying, tired of carrying what I did to you. You didn't do anything to me. I did. His voice was flat, hard. I got 4 people killed because I was too arrogant to listen. And then I blamed you because I couldn't face what I'd done. I took your career, your reputation, your life. And I did it to save my own skin. Elena's jaw tightened. You think confessing changes that? No, but maybe it stops you from carrying it for me. Silence. Elena moved closer, standing just outside the bars. The shot I missed. The one that started everything. Was it really the wind? Garrett looked her in the eye. No, it was me. I moved the team 30 seconds early. Changed the angle. You adjusted as fast as anyone could, but I didn't give you enough time. Elena's breath caught. Why didn't you say that during the debrief? Because I was a coward. Garrett's face twisted. And because it was easier to destroy you than admit I wasn't as good as I thought I was. Elena's hands clenched. You let me believe it was my fault for 6 years. I know. You let me bury myself. I know. And now you think apologizing fixes it? No. Garrett's voice cracked. Nothing fixes it. But maybe you can stop hating yourself for something I did. Elena stared at him. Then she turned and walked to the door. Wait. She stopped, hand on the handle. I meant what I said, Garrett continued. About the coin. You earned it, long before I ever did. And if you decide to put that rifle down for good, if you walk away and never look back, I'll understand. But if you pick it up again, he paused, make sure it's for the right reasons. Not because someone's forcing you, not because you're trying to make up for the past, but because you want to save someone who needs it. Elena didn't respond, just opened the door and left. The Armory. 1,400 hours, Elena sat at her workbench, staring at the 2 challenge coins laid out in front of her. Number 1, Phantom Lead. Garrett's. Number 9, Phantom 9. Hers. 2 sides of the same unit, one buried in guilt, one buried in lies, both trying to survive what they'd lost. She picked up her coin, turned it over in her hands. The weight was familiar, comforting, a reminder of what she used to be. Before everything fell apart, before she ran. She set it down, reached for her rifle, and started disassembling it. Not to clean, to think. Each piece came apart with mechanical precision, bolt, barrel, trigger assembly, stock, components, parts of a whole. Like her, fragmented, scattered, but still functional, still capable, if she chose to be. The door opened. Voss walked in, arm still in the sling, face bruised but healing. Heard you might be joining the team, he said. Elena didn't look up. Word travels fast. Small base, not much else to talk about. Voss pulled up a chair, sat down uninvited. Can I ask you something? Can I stop you? Probably not. He grinned, then his expression turned serious. Why'd you save us? You didn't know us, didn't owe us anything. You could have stayed in your workshop and no one would have blamed you. Elena's hand stilled on the rifle parts. Because you were dying. A lot of people die every day. You don't save all of them. No, I don't. So why us? Elena looked up, meeting his eyes. Because I heard the fear in Kane's voice when he called for help. And I remembered what it felt like to be the one calling, knowing no one was coming. Voss nodded slowly. And now? Now I don't know. Harlan's pushing you to stay. Yes. And you don't want to. Elena hesitated. I don't know if I can. Can or should? Both. Voss leaned back, studying her. You know what I think? I think you're scared. Not of missing, not of failing, but of caring again. Because if you care, you can lose. And losing people you care about is the worst kind of pain there is. Elena's throat tightened. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? Voss tapped his sling. I took shrapnel 2 days ago. Could have been worse. Could have been Booker. Could have been any of us. And yeah, it scared the hell out of me. But you know what scared me more? What? The idea that next time you won't be there, because you decided it was easier to hide than to risk getting hurt again. Elena looked away. Voss stood, moved toward the door. For what it's worth, I hope you stay. Not because we need you, though we do, but because I think you need us too. Then he was gone. Elena sat alone in the silence, staring at the disassembled rifle, the coins, the choice. And for the first time in 6 years, she didn't know which path led forward. But maybe that was the point. Maybe choosing meant she still had a chance. Bam. Command Center. 1,800 hours. Harlan was reviewing intelligence reports when the knock came. Enter. Elena walked in. No hesitation, no uncertainty, just purpose. Harlan set down the report. You've made a decision. I have. And? Elena met his eyes. I'll stay, on one condition. Name it. I'm not taking orders blindly. If I think a mission's compromised, if I see something command doesn't, I speak up. And you listen. Harlan's jaw tightened. That's not how chain of command works. It is if you want me on this team. Elena's voice was steady, firm. I won't watch people die because someone higher up the chain ignored the facts on the ground. Not again. Harlan stared at her. Then slowly he nodded. Fair enough. But it goes both ways. You speak up, I'll listen. But if I make a call you don't like, you follow it. No freelancing, no cowboy shit. We clear? Clear, Harlan extended his hand. Elena shook it. Welcome back, Phantom 9. Elena's grip tightened. Don't call me that. Then what should I call you? Overwatch, just Overwatch. Harlan smiled, faint, almost imperceptible. Works for me, Boch. Briefing room, so 800 hours. Next day. The team was assembled when Elena walked in. Kane, Voss, Rains, Doc Harris, 3 others she didn't know yet. All eyes turned to her. Harlan stood at the front. Gentlemen, meet your new tactical advisor and primary Overwatch, Elena Viral. Some of you know her work. The rest of you will learn to appreciate it. Rains grinned. Does this mean we get the mystery sniper full-time? It means you get someone who'll keep your asses alive, Harlan said. Questions? No one spoke. Harlan nodded. Good. Varel, you're up. Walk them through your assessment of yesterday's operation. What worked? What didn't? What we do different next time? Elena stepped forward. For a moment she felt the weight of their eyes on her, judging, measuring, wondering if she was worth the hype. Then she looked at Kane. He nodded. And something inside her clicked into place. She turned to the screen, pulled up the satellite imagery from the compound raid. Entry point Alpha was exposed, she began. Patrol routes overlapped in a way that gave you less than 30 seconds to breach. That's not enough margin for error. Next time, we create a diversion on the east side to pull guards away from the primary entrance. She clicked to the next slide. Overwatch positioning was adequate but not optimal. The ridge gave me clear sight lines, but I was too far out to support close quarters engagements. I need to be within 1,200 meters, closer if the terrain allows. Kane leaned forward. That puts you at higher risk. Calculated risk, and it gives you better coverage when things go loud. Voss nodded. I like it. Elena continued, breaking down every decision, every shot, every mistake. No ego, no defensiveness, just cold, clinical analysis. The team listened, and by the end of the briefing, they weren't looking at her with skepticism anymore. They were looking at her with respect. The range. 1,400 hours, Kane found her on the shooting range later that afternoon. She was prone, rifle steady, firing at targets 800 meters out. Each shot landed center mass. Perfect grouping. No deviation. Kane waited until she'd emptied the magazine, then walked over. Not bad, he said. Elena sat up, ejecting the mag. I'm rusty. If that's rusty, I don't want to see you sharp. Kane crouched beside her. How are you holding up? Fine. Liar. Elena's lips twitched, almost a smile. I'm adjusting. Good, because we've got another mission briefing tomorrow. Intel's flagging a new target, high value, time sensitive. He paused. Harlan wants you on it. I'll be ready. Kane nodded. Then he hesitated. Can I ask you something? You're going to anyway. Fair point. He looked out at the range. Do you regret it? Staying? Elena was quiet for a long moment. Then she shook her head. Not yet. But you might? Ask me after the next mission. Kane grinned. Deal. He stood, started to walk away, then stopped. For what it's worth, I think you made the right call. Not because we need you, though we do, but because I think this is where you belong, even if you don't see it yet. Elena looked up at him. Maybe, she said quietly, and for the first time in 6 years, she almost believed it. Mom, the workshop. 2,200 hours. Elena sat at her workbench one last time, staring at the challenge coins. Number 1. Number 9. Ghosts of the past. Reminders of what was lost, but also proof of what survived. She picked them both up, held them in her palms. Then she placed them side by side on the shelf above her bench. Not hidden, not buried. Just there. Part of her story. Not the end of it. She turned back to her rifle, started reassembling it with the same precision she'd shown 1,000 times before. But this time it felt different. Not like a penance. Like preparation. For the next mission. The next shot. The next chance to make sure someone made it home. Outside, the base settled into the quiet rhythm of night watch. Voices fading, lights dimming, stars emerging overhead. And in the workshop, Elena Virel, Phantom 9, Overwatch, the ghost no one saw coming, worked in silence, hands steady, breathing calm, ready. Because somewhere out there, someone would need her. And this time, she wouldn't be hiding when they called. She'd be watching, waiting, and when the moment came, she wouldn't miss. Not anymore. The rifle clicked together with the finality of a decision made. Elena set it on the workbench, ran her hand along the stock one last time, then locked it in the case. Not hidden anymore, just secured, ready for tomorrow. She stood, stretched, and felt the weight in her shoulders ease just slightly. Outside, footsteps crunched on gravel, getting closer. The door opened without a knock. Harlan stepped inside, tablet in hand, expression grim. "We've got a problem," he said. Elena turned. "What kind?" "The kind that needs solving in the next 12 hours. He set the tablet on her bench, swiped to a satellite image. Intel just flagged a convoy moving through the Paktia province. 3 vehicles, armed escort, and thermal signatures that match a high-value package. Elena studied the screen. Package being? Humanitarian workers. 4 of them. Taken 2 days ago during a supply run. We just got confirmation they're being moved to a compound near the Pakistan border. Ransom? Leverage. The group holding them wants prisoner exchanges, commands negotiating, but Harlan's jaw tightened. The convoy's ETA at the compound is 0600 tomorrow. Once they're inside, extraction becomes near impossible. Elena's pulse quickened. So we hit them before they arrive. Exactly. Small team, fast insertion. You provide overwatch and route clearance. Kane leads the ground op. Harlan paused. But here's the complication. The terrain's shit. No high ground within effective range, no clear sight lines, and the convoy's moving through populated areas. Civilian risk is high. Elena zoomed in on the map, tracing the route with her finger. What's the timeline? Wheels up at 0200. That gives you 4 hours to prep and brief the team. And if we miss the window? Then 4 people die, and we spend the next 6 months planning a raid that'll cost a lot more lives. Harlan met her eyes. I need you sharp on this one. No hesitation, no second guessing. Elena held his gaze. I'll be ready. Harlan nodded. Good. Briefing room in 30 minutes. He turned to leave, then stopped at the door. Virel? Sir? This is the kind of mission that makes or breaks a career. Yours included. His voice softened. Don't let the ghosts get in your way. Then he was gone. Elena stared at the tablet. 4 lives. 12 hours. No room for error. She grabbed her jacket and headed for the door. The ghosts could wait. Quiet. Briefing room, 22:30 hours. The team was already assembled when Elena walked in. Kane stood at the front, arms crossed, face hard. Voss sat in the front row, sling gone, arms still stiff but functional. Rains and Doc Harris flanked him. 3 other operators she'd been introduced to that morning. Cruz, a wiry explosives specialist. Novak, a heavy weapons gunner built like a tank. And Chen, a quiet comms tech with sharp eyes. Elena moved to the screen, pulled up the satellite imagery. Here's what we know, she began. 3-vehicle convoy. 2 armed escorts, 1 transport. Moving east on Highway 7 through Paktia province. 4 hostages confirmed inside the transport vehicle. ETA at the compound is 0600. We intercept before they reach it. Kane leaned forward. What's the terrain? Bad. Elena zoomed in. Narrow mountain roads, steep drop-offs, limited maneuver space, and the convoy's got air support, drone coverage every 30 minutes. We'll have narrow windows to operate. Voss frowned. What about Overwatch? That's the problem. Elena pulled up a topographical overlay. No high ground within effective range of the intercept point. Closest ridge is 1,400 meters out and obstructed by terrain. I'll have limited visibility and narrow firing lanes. So what's the plan? Rains asked. Elena's eyes hardened. We force them to stop. Create a choke point. I take out the drone before it can call for reinforcements. You hit the convoy fast, extract the hostages, and move to the extraction point before enemy QRF arrives. Kane studied the map. How do we force the stop? Cruz raised his hand. I can rig a controlled detonation, block the road, make it look like a landslide. They'll have to halt and assess. How long to set it? 10 minutes if I prep now. Kane nodded. Do it. Novak, you're on suppression. The second they stop, you lay down fire to keep them pinned. Chen, I need comms jamming. Cut their radios before they can call it in. Copy. Doc, you're with me. We go for the transport vehicle. Get the hostages out and into the extract bird. Voss and Rains, you secure the perimeter. Everyone nodded. Kane turned to Elena. And you? I clear the path. Eliminate threats you can't see. And if anything goes wrong, she paused. I make sure you get out. Kane's expression softened. We're counting on you. Elena met his eyes. I know. 10. The airfield. 01:45 hours. The Blackhawk's rotors were already spinning when the team arrived. Elena boarded last, rifle case strapped to her back, NVGs hanging from her vest. She settled into a corner seat, closed her eyes, and let the vibration of the helicopter wash over her. Breathe in, breathe out, focus. Across from her, Kane was checking his magazine for the third time. Voss stared out the open door, jaw tight. Rains whispered something to Doc that made him smile. Normal pre-mission rituals, comfort in routine. Elena understood that. The helicopter lifted off, banking hard toward the mountains. 45 minutes to insertion. Elena opened her eyes, pulled out a small notebook, and started sketching. Wind patterns, bullet drop calculations, firing angles, numbers she could control, variables she could predict. The one thing that made sense in a world that rarely did. The ridge. 02:45 hours. The insertion was smooth. Elena hit the ground running, moving upslope through the darkness with the kind of speed that came from years of training. The ridge was steep, rocky, unforgiving, but she'd climbed worse. 15 minutes later, she was in position, prone, rifle deployed, scope ranging the distant road below. The convoy wasn't visible yet, but she could see the route, the choke point where Cruz would trigger the detonation, the kill zones where the enemy would be most vulnerable. She keyed her radio. Overwatch in position. Road is clear. Stand by. Kane's voice crackled back. Copy. Cruz is setting charges now. ETA 3 minutes. Elena scanned the sky through her scope. Empty. But the drone would be back. They always were. She adjusted her breathing, slowed her heart rate, and waited. The road. 03:02 hours. Kane crouched behind a boulder, watching Cruz work. The explosive specialist moved with the precision of a surgeon, placing shaped charges along the rock face above the road. Wires ran to a detonator clipped to his vest. How much longer? Kane whispered. 2 minutes. We don't have 2 minutes. The convoy's 5 clicks out. Then it's going to be close. Cruz didn't look up, just kept working. Kane's radio hissed. Overwatch to ground team. Drone inbound. 60 seconds. Shit. Kane keyed his mic. Cruz, we need to move. Almost there. Now, Cruz! Cruz clipped the last wire, grabbed his pack, and scrambled down the slope. Done. We're hot. Kane waved the team back into cover. Everyone down. Chen, jam the drone's feed on my mark. Chen's fingers flew across his tablet. Ready! The drone's hum grew louder, closer. Kane held his breath. Then, crack! The drone dropped from the sky like a stone. Kane's head snapped up. What the? Elena's voice came through calm and steady. Drone neutralized. You're clear, Kane exhaled. Copy. Standing by. 30 seconds later, headlights appeared around the bend. The convoy. Assets. The ridge. 03:05 hours. Elena tracked the lead vehicle through her scope. Armed pickup. 2 hostiles visible. Probable third in the cab. Second vehicle. Transport. Reinforced. Likely where the hostages were. Third vehicle. Another armed escort. 3 hostiles confirmed. She keyed her mic. Convoy in sight. 3 vehicles. Estimated 9 to 12 hostiles. Detonate on my mark. Copy. Standing by. Elena's finger hovered over the trigger. The lead vehicle approached the kill zone. Closer. Closer. Mark! The explosion was deafening. Rock and debris cascaded down the slope, blocking the road completely. The lead vehicle slammed on its brakes, skidding to a halt inches from the rubble. Chaos erupted. Doors flew open. Hostiles poured out. Weapons raised, scanning for threats. Elena didn't wait. She fired. The driver of the lead vehicle dropped, adjusted, fired. The hostile in the truck bed collapsed. Below, Kane's team surged forward. The road. 0306 hours, Novak opened up with the machine gun, suppressing fire raking across the convoy. Sparks flew. Metal screamed. Kane and Doc sprinted toward the transport vehicle, keeping low. A hostile rounded the corner, AK raised. Elena's shot dropped him before he could fire. Go, go! Kane shouted. They reached the transport. Doc yanked the door open. Inside, 4 people, bound, gagged, terrified. Friendlies, we're getting you out! Doc started cutting zip ties. Kane covered the door, rifle sweeping for threats. Another hostile appeared on the roof of the lead vehicle. Crack! Gone. Overwatch, you're a damn angel, Kane shouted. Focus on extraction. Doc hauled the first hostage out. A woman, mid-30s, shaking but conscious. Then a man. Then 2 more. We've got them. Moving to extract. Voss and Rains formed a protective perimeter, weapons high. Then Elena's voice cut through, sharp and urgent. Contact! Enemy QR inbound from the east. 2 vehicles. ETA 90 seconds. Kane cursed. Chen, where's our bird? 3 minutes out. We don't have 3 minutes. Kane grabbed one of the hostages, started moving. Everyone fall back to the LZ. Now! They ran. The Ridge. 0308 hours. Elena tracked the incoming QRF vehicles through her scope. Fast. Aggressive. Armed to the teeth. She adjusted her aim. Fired. The lead vehicle's windshield shattered. It swerved, clipped a rock, and flipped. The second vehicle kept coming. Elena chambered another round. Fired. The front tire exploded. The vehicle spun out, slamming into the cliff face. QRF neutralized. You're clear. Below, the team was almost at the landing zone. The hostages stumbled, exhausted, but moving. The Blackhawk appeared over the ridge, rotors thundering. It touched down. Kane shoved the hostages inside, then turned back. Voss, Rains, load up! They scrambled aboard. Kane did a final head count. Where's Chen? Doc's face went pale. He was right behind me. Gunfire erupted from the road. Chen appeared, sprinting hard, laptop clutched to his chest. 3 hostiles on his tail. Contact rear, Voss shouted, leaning out the door, firing. 1 hostile dropped. The other 2 kept coming. Elena's scope found them. Breathe, adjust, fire. Both down. Chen dove into the helicopter, gasping. Kane hauled him inside. Everyone's in. Go! 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 The Blackhawk lifted off just as another burst of gunfire tore through the air. But they were already gone. Well, Forward Operating Base Sentinel. 0800 hours. The helicopter touched down in a cloud of dust. The hostages were met by medics, blankets, and relief. Tears, gratitude, survival. Kane's team climbed out, exhausted, bruised, but whole. Harlan was waiting. Report. Mission success, Kane said. 4 hostages recovered. No friendly casualties. Enemy casualties estimated at 15. Harlan nodded. Then his eyes found Elena, standing off to the side, rifle case slung over her shoulder. Good work, Overwatch. Elena nodded, didn't smile, just nodded. But something in her chest loosened, just a little. The mess hall, 1200 hours. The team sat together for the first time. Not in a briefing room, not on a mission, just sitting, eating, talking. Rains was telling some ridiculous story about a training exercise gone wrong. Novak was laughing so hard he nearly choked. Chen shook his head, grinning. Elena sat at the end of the table, quiet, listening. Kane slid into the seat beside her. You did good out there, he said. So did you. Yeah, but I had a guardian angel watching my 6, he grinned. Feels nice. Elena's lips twitched, almost a smile. Voss raised his coffee cup. To Overwatch, the ghost who saves our asses. The table echoed the toast. Elena looked around at them. These men. Her team. And for the first time in 6 years, she felt something she thought she'd lost forever. Belonging. Detention block. 1,600 hours. Elena stood outside Garrett's cell one last time. He looked up when she entered. Came to gloat? He asked. No. Then why are you here? Elena stepped closer. Because I wanted you to know something. What? I forgive you. Garrett's breath caught. Elena continued. Not because you deserve it, but because I'm tired of carrying what you did. It's yours, not mine, and I'm done letting it define me. Garrett's eyes glistened. Elena, I'm not finished. Her voice was steady, firm. You made a mistake, a bad one, and people died because of it. That's on you. But I'm not one of them. I survived, and I'm choosing to live with that instead of dying with them. She paused. So you can keep your guilt, keep your apologies. I don't need them anymore. Garrett stared at her. Then slowly, he nodded. Thank you, he whispered. Elena turned and walked out. And this time, when the door closed behind her, it felt final. Not locked, just finished. Command Center, 1,800 hours. Harlan looked up when Elena entered. Virel, what can I do for you? Elena set a folder on his desk. Tactical assessment from this morning's op. Recommendations for future intercept missions. Harlan flipped it open, scanned the pages. His eyebrows rose. This is thorough. It's my job. It's more than that. He closed the folder. You're building doctrine, training the next generation of Overwatch operators. That's not just a job. That's a legacy. Elena shifted, uncomfortable with the praise. I'm just doing what needs to be done. And that's exactly why you're good at it. Harlan leaned back. I got word from Command this morning. They want to expand the Overwatch program. Make it standard across all special operations units, and they want you to lead it. Elena's breath caught. Me? You, full authority, your own team, resources, training pipeline, the works. He paused. What do you say? Elena was silent for a long moment. Then she shook her head. No. Harlan blinked. No? I'm not ready for that. Not yet. Elena met his eyes. But I'll stay here, with this team. Keep doing what I'm doing, and when I'm ready, when I know I can lead without the ghosts getting in the way, I'll let you know. Harlan studied her. Then he smiled. Fair enough, but the offer stands. Whenever you're ready. Thank you, sir. Elena turned to leave. Virel. She stopped. You're not the same person you were 6 years ago. You know that, right? Elena looked back at him. I know. Good, because that person was broken, and you're not. Not anymore. Elena didn't respond, just nodded, and walked out. The workshop. 2,200 hours, Elena sat at her workbench, staring at the message carved into the wood. If you're still breathing, you can help someone else keep breathing too. She ran her fingers over the words. Then she picked up a carving tool and added something new underneath. And if you're helping others breathe, you're still living. She set down the tool, leaned back, and smiled. Not much, but enough. Outside, the base settled into the rhythm of another night. Stars emerged. Wind whispered through the perimeter fence. And in the workshop, Elena Virel, Phantom 9, Overwatch, the ghost who chose to be seen, sat in the quiet. Hands steady, heart lighter, ready for whatever came next. Because she'd finally learned the truth. The past didn't define her. The mission didn't own her. And the ghosts she'd been running from? They weren't chasing her anymore. They were walking beside her, reminders of what was lost, and proof of what survived. 6 months later, the base had changed. New faces, new missions, new stories, but some things stayed the same. Elena still worked in the shop during downtime, tuning rifles, mapping wind patterns, preparing for the next op. Kane's team still gathered in the mess hall, swapping stories, laughing too loud, living too hard. And when the call came, when someone, somewhere, needed help, Elena was there, watching, waiting. And when the moment came, she didn't hesitate, didn't miss, didn't fail. Because she'd learned something in those 6 months. Redemption wasn't about erasing the past. It was about choosing who you became because of it. And she'd made her choice. Not the ghost, not the killer, not the broken operator who couldn't let go, just Elena. The woman who decided that if she was still breathing, she'd make damn sure others kept breathing too. And that was enough. The ridge. 1 year later. Elena stood on the ridge one final time. Not for a mission, not for a shot, just to stand. The canyon stretched out below her, bathed in the golden light of dawn. Somewhere down there, people were waking up, living, surviving, because someone had been watching, someone had cared enough to pull the trigger when it mattered, and maybe that was all anyone could really do. Care, watch, act. Elena closed her eyes, felt the wind against her face, and smiled. Then she turned and walked away, leaving the past where it belonged, behind her and ahead, a future she'd fought to earn, a life she'd chosen to live, and a promise she'd never break. To be there, when it mattered, for the people who needed her most. 7 men walked out of that canyon alive because one woman chose to act when everyone else had given up. Months later, 4 hostages came home because she refused to let them become ghosts. And somewhere, in a quiet workshop on a forgotten base, the woman no one ever saw kept working, tuning rifles, mapping winds, saving lives, not for glory, not for recognition, but because she'd learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is choose to show up, even when no one's watching, even when it's hard, even when the past says you're not good enough. Because the world doesn't need perfect heroes. It needs people willing to try. And Elena Virel, she never stopped trying. Bob, if you're still breathing, you can help someone else keep breathing too. And maybe, just maybe, that's all the redemption any of us really need.